What's up, everyone, and welcome to Talking Sports and Teams with Reams. And on Talking Sports and Teams with Reams, we try to talk all sports and teams with Reams. I have a guest coming on the show. His name is Jonathan Clement. He is the broadcaster for the SPHL's Making Mayhem. The SPHL, for those of you who don't know, is the Southern Professional Hockey League. Nevertheless, we're going to discuss a little bit of hockey. We're just going to dig into John's mind a little bit. Life of a broadcaster, of a hockey broadcaster, basically. And also, I want to get his take on, because this gambling thing in the NFL, to me, it just seems like it's an NFL problem right now. But I'm pretty sure that's going to be, I'm thinking that's going to become a professional sports problem. I think the NHL, the MLB, and the NBA, you know, they may have a little more to worry about soon to come to what they think. So, we're going to pay some bills. And when I come back, we're going to talk to John, talking sports and teams with Reams. Yeah. Hey everyone, just a quick thanks to our sponsors who help make this podcast possible. First to Hyatt. Hyatt believes the modern business traveler is changing the face of business. Today's business travelers don't settle, they're refusing mediocrity, and they're reinventing their careers, bending titles, and breaking new ground. And because they've changed, business travel is changing too. And that's why there's a place and a house where good enough isn't. Hyatt Place and Hyatt House Hotels, you've come too far to settle now. So book your stay today at Hyatt.com/why settle. I have a special guest for everyone. How you doing, John?
Doing great, Sean. Pleasure to be here.
I just want to say thank you for taking the time out and come do this podcast with me here on Talking Sports and Teams with Reams. You know, I connected with you. We both went to Full Sail. I looked up what you did in your field as a sportscaster, and I just you've been around, and I think it's just pretty cool. I can give the fans a little bit of what you do. You're a play-by-play sportscaster for mostly hockey, correct?
Yep, yeah. I've specialized in hockey. I've done some lacrosse. I've done about 75 games of baseball too over my time, and after graduating Full Sail, 301 games as a full-time professional under my belt, to go along with a couple hundred other that I did before I got into it full-time. So
have you ever played hockey yourself growing up or anything like that?
Oh yeah, yep. No, I played all growing up, and then one day your passion for the game no longer meets your ability on the ice, so you got to find another way to stay involved. So I started doing merchandise for a decade, and then needed a degree, so I went back to school and started chasing the real passion, which was getting on the mic and talking sports.
Support for Full Sail University and the following message come from Virgin Atlantic. If your ideas challenge the status quo, if you have advised people that you had no right advising, if you have built companies and lost companies and built them again, if you've been called a pellet, a dreamer, an innovator, and a genius, if you thrived in the 11th hour, if you have blown it and completely nailed it in the same day, prepare for your next departure. Virgin Atlantic to London. Business is an adventure. Let it fly. And when you went back to school, you went to Full Sail.
I started actually at American Broadcasting School and learned the ins and outs of radio, and setting up and doing things like that. And then I went back to school to Full Sail for my bachelor's. And then right after my bachelor's, I carried right on to my master's in entertainment business. So
what made you continue on and get your master's and actually like to stay at Full Sail? Because Full Sail is a pretty good school. I know this myself personally, but I want to get your take on it because you went back. You know, like.
Yeah. Well, I put 10 years into the industry before I was let go for not having a degree. And honestly, nothing like that to make you never want to hear those words again. So I said, if they're going to fire me, it's going to be for something else other than not having the education. So I stayed on to get my master's.
Do you watch other sports?
Oh yeah, I mean, I watch a ton of hockey, obviously, but I cheer on my Astros every year, and got my NFL ticket on the Sundays there when I'm not on the road. So.
You have a favorite NFL team? Because on sports and talking sports and teams with Reams, we love our Giants. You know, we love our football all together, but I'm personally a Giants fan. You have a
Then I'm not going to answer that question for you. Don't want to upset the podcast then.
So can I guess?
Sure.
Dallas Cowboys?
And star on you. Give it right there. Put
Are you
the big
serious?
star there. Yep.
Oh my God. we got to end this interview right now. No, I'm just playing. No. How did I guess that? Wow. Talking sports. This is what we got to deal with, guys. Oh, it's gonna be football season is coming soon. So, well, what about hockey team? What's your favorite hockey team?
Well, I've worked in the minors for a long time, so I try to say I don't have a team, but yeah, I root for the Coyotes.
So when you say you worked in the you worked in the minors, you mean the minors is like the minor that's for like the NHL league?
So I worked in the AHL and ECHL for the first 10 years of my career, and those are the direct affiliates of the NHL team. So I worked with the Senators organization, I worked with the Hurricanes organization, and I worked with the Predators organization, and saw a bunch of guys who would go on to be NHL players and eventual Stanley Cup champions come through those locations. And so I'd worked with a bunch of people, and I just decided for the betterment of, of my sanity not to have a team at that point and just keep rooting on players individually. So
yeah, for sure, because it's slim chances our favorite teams are going to win it anyway. If we do, they do, but if they don't,
for
you
sure,
gotta take the good with the bad. Play by play, I would imagine in hockey with it going so much back and forth, just like most sports, major sports anyway, professional sports, you do have to have a love for the game and what's going on. And of course, reaching out to others in the business, I'm sure that would be a big help as well to give you the little tips and techniques. Because even though technology is advanced, the game and the way you approach it is the same.
I mean, the end of the day, you're still telling a story. The end of the day, you're still writing that version of the story for the people who have tuned into you and are listening to your broadcast. So really, it's about being a good storyteller and finding ways to explain, what's going on, why it's going on, and why it matters. That's really your job when you're up in the booth. So,
remind me of you're a hockey guy, like for instance, you're I forgot his name, but the broadcaster who said the first do you believe in miracles? Do you believe in miracles? Like that kind of just happened. Like,
yeah, no, and I mean, you think about it, you wonder, and I've watched so many times that you give that interview after the fact. How did that come to your mind? And honestly, like you think about that moment and Al Michaels screaming out, do you believe in miracles? And how did that come to you? Were you ready for that? I go right back to the AHL just presented their AHL Calder Trophy, which was the highest championship in that league, and it was a great call by a guy I've known for a few years, Zach Fish. He says, and it's it's sweeter by the dozen. It was Hershey Bears' 12th ever championship that they won in the league since they've existed, and you come up with a line like that on the spot, and it's just something jives about it, and it just tells the story in a way that maybe you couldn't have done if you tried to script it. So it's often those moments that come off the cuff that really tell the story.
Gambling. I don't know if you've heard about recently in the NFL, they suspended like the Detroit Lions had suspended like 5 players, and before there was some other players involved in like sports gambling, and someone was betting on their teams.
Mm-hmm.
Someone was betting on sports outside of the NFL, and it's a whole bunch of. Far as I know, the NFL is like the only league so far that's where players have got suspended for like gambling and stuff like that. I could be wrong with the recent, like FanDuel, for instance. FanDuel gambling is
right.
Online gambling is legal in New York. You're from you're from New York, right? Correct.
Originally, yep.
Originally from New York City, so New Jersey made online gambling legal, and New York online gambling is legal now, and I forgot how many states. So
yep.
You can gamble on the NHL.
I mean, now it being such a lucrative thing, you're seeing it even during the NHL playoffs. There were sports books advertised right on the board. So I was lucky enough to attend the ECHL meetings last year, and the commissioner of the league stood up front and just said, if you're working in the industry, stay away from it. Like there are no guidelines, there are no rules, because it's still so new and it's still being really handled in a different way. And so it's going to be what it's going to be. Eventually, they'll come to some sort of consensus on it. But till then, each team's going to handle it how they're going to handle it.
That was like my major thing about it, because I'm one of those guys that's just like kind of just look down the line, like You just said it yourself. You're watching the hockey game and they're promoting the sports book, the gambling, the online gambling apps, and different things of that nature. And
You see 3 commercials every commercial break too. So
yeah, and then this is why luckily, like the NHL didn't have to deal with this problem yet. So, but he's like you said, the commissioner, he's already covering his behind. He's saying like, listen, he's giving the format, but until they learn more about what to do, the NFL, then it is what it is. The NFL is being very hypocritical in my opinion because they're disciplining players, but they go the ladder in their business with these online internet gambling companies or whatever. So I think they even like some of the teams, some of the like FanDuel and stuff even have like partners or partners with some of the actual individual teams in the NFL. So
yeah.
it's just, like I don't see that with any other sport, but it still makes me wonder how long. Like you just said, how long before it actually happens?
Right. Yeah, it's got to come soon, just because it's such a big revenue stream for sports and for states, honestly. And that's what, like I said, they're evaluating it all the time. So something's going to shake out from it for sure.
Thanks for taking the time out, Mr. Jonathan Clement, broadcaster of the SPHL's Making Mayhem, and my fellow Full Sail alumni. Appreciate you taking the time out, and
thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Talking Sports and Teams with Reams. Yeah.